Hello and welcome to the RCD ShareNet. My name is Dave Thompson. I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator here for the Richmond Center for Disability. And we have a 5-part series coming up for the next, basically till the end of the year. And we are going to we've collaborated with a group from Laural Behavioral Consultants and the posAbilities group. And we've collaborated with them on 5 videos on sexuality as relates to the wide disability field or community. And today's first video is on the topic of consent as it relates to intimate contact and interpersonal relationships. So a very important topic. And we'd like to thank the people at posAbilities and Sherry and Darren, you will see in the video, and the Link Safety Relationship Sexuality Program for their stellar work on these videos. Please enjoy.
Hi everyone, I'm Sherry. I'm a certified sexual health educator through Options for Sexual Health BC. I use the pronouns she and her. I'm also a board certified behavior analyst and a clinical supervisor here at posAbilities.
Hi everyone, my name's Darren and I'm a certified sexual health educator through Options for Sexual Health, and I use the pronouns him and his, and I'm also a team manager with posAbilities. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the LINK program.
So LINK is a program that's offered through posAbilities, and our focus is on safety, relationships, and sexuality. We offer a series of different topics on sexual health, and these can be offered in a one-to-one setting or in a group setting. So feel free to visit our website to get more information, and we are happy to support you. Through these series, Darren and I are going to be talking to you about various different sexual health topics. We hope you enjoy them.
We hope you enjoyed the series. We look forward to working with you. Hi everyone, it's Darren here. We're back with Sexual Health Talks with Sherry and Darren, and today we're going to be talking about a very important topic of consent. We're going to talk about what consent looks like, when do you need consent, and what do you do in situations where maybe you're unsure. You know, consent can be a bit of a gray area, so it's good to have reminders for everybody about what consent looks like.
So Darren, when somebody is wanting to consent or getting consent, what does that even mean? Like, what does the word consent mean? How can we explain that to other people?
Yeah, consent is another way of saying permission. So it's something that somebody might want to do or might not want to do. And it's a way that we are able to tell somebody that that we're wanting to have a relationship with what things we like and don't like done with our bodies. Because as we all remember, we're all bosses of our own bodies, and we want to make sure that we feel respected in interactions with people.
That's really important, that we're all our bosses of our own bodies in any aspect, whether it comes to a romantic relationship or non-romantic relationship, right? That people should be getting our permission, or we should be getting people's permission. What does it look like to give permission or get permission? What do they need to make that happen? Like, how do we know the person is able to just say yes or no and take their word for it?
Yeah, I think it's really important to know that we want to look at somebody's body language and what they're saying. So for example, if somebody was to say yes, but they're maybe looking away or they look uncomfortable, their body language isn't necessarily matching what they're saying. So in that situation, it'd be good to check in and say, hey, you said yes, but actually you were looking away from me. Are you feeling uncomfortable? Is there anything you want to talk about? And open up a conversation.
Okay, so when we are wanting to get consent or give consent, one thing that we need to be doing is having that open communication, and we need to be looking at body language. And I want to talk a little bit more about that in a second, but what else do we need? Like, does a person need to be awake, or what if they've had a few drinks? What does that do to consent?
Yeah, consent, or when somebody has had, whether they've been drinking or maybe using drugs, somebody's inhibitions go down and they may make decisions that they wouldn't normally, or they may not be able to make the decision in the first place. So it's always a good idea, when possible, is to not have conversations around consent when people have been drinking or using drugs.
Okay, and does a person need to be awake? Does it count if they're half asleep and they're saying yes to something?
Yeah, somebody definitely needs to be awake. If somebody is sleeping, that absolutely means they are not consenting to something.
Okay, so for consent to be valid, we need to be awake. We need to make sure that, or it's best if we're not under the influence of drugs or alcohol, so we can make a decision that truly reflects how we are feeling, or the person can make a decision on based off how they're actually feeling. And we want to really be looking at body language. So when we give consent, or when we're asking somebody for consent, you know, there's different ways that people can give consent, right? We can be saying yes with our words, and we can be saying yes with our body language, and we can be saying yes non-verbally as well. And the same goes for no. A person could be saying no with their words or with their body, or just with their gestures. They can be saying no. So it's really important to do a full body scan when we're asking someone for something. And if somebody is asking us, they should also be doing a body scan. And sometimes we might feel pressured, and that's why it's really important to do that body scan, because when we're nervous, we might say one answer, but our body is going to show the true answer that we're feeling most likely. So if somebody is saying yes to something, so for example, if I asked, can I give you a hug, Darren? And if you said yes, I'm also going to be looking at your body. So I'm going to scan your face first. So were you smiling? Were you also nodding your head? What did your voice sound like? So when I'm looking for a yes, when someone's consenting, we're wanting the person to be comfortable and excited. So their tone of voice sounds like, yes, of course, I'd love that. Thought you would never ask. Absolutely, right? So the tone shows that the person is happy and wanting to consent. And then when I move down to the rest of the body, I'm going to be looking for, you know, where are their arms placed, right? So is it down by their side? Do they look comfortable? Does their body look relaxed? If I see signs of a person has their arms crossed, or their head is down, or their head is looking away, or their shoulders are shrugged, or even if I see on the face like tears coming down, like someone's crying, I need to take a step back, because the body is not matching the words coming out of a person's mouth, right? Or even if someone's saying yes, but they're shaking their head and they're like, yeah, I'd love to do that. I have to take that their head gestures is not matching the words coming out of their mouth. What do we do in situations, Darren, where we think that the person's body language is not matching the words coming out of their mouth? Or we're also sure, like, you said yes, but your body is looking kind of tense. So I know that you don't want to hug. So what do I do in those situations?
I think it's really important, first of all, to just assume that that person is not consenting to anything. And so if you're unsure, really the answer is no. So really looking at it that way, but also opening up a conversation with the person is really helpful. And just saying, you know, it would be a good idea to check in and saying, you know, maybe you look like you aren't comfortable having, or, you know, with us having a hug. Is there anything that you are comfortable with? And checking in with the person that way.
Okay, so is it okay for me to question why you don't want that? Like, can I say, why is your body saying you don't want a hug? You gave me a hug last time. Are you sick? Is there a reason I haven't seen you in so long? Is it okay for me to ask you all those questions and maybe make you feel pressured to be saying yes?
No, and I think that's a really important piece that you're talking about is around pressure and what that can look like. Is everybody should be able to make a decision without worrying that they're being pressured in a situation. So that could be, for example, you know, if somebody's feeling pressured, that also means that they're not consenting. So if someone was to say to somebody, for example, you know what, if you don't give me a hug, then I don't want to be your friend anymore, then that isn't consenting in that situation. That person's feeling pressured.
Okay. So important reminders for consent is we can't be pressured. We need to be awake, or the person needs to be awake. The person can't be pressured. Everyone should have the ability to change their mind, right, from yes to no. And it's important to do a full body scan to make sure words and body language match each other. And it's better if we're not under the influence of drugs or alcohol when giving consent or receiving consent.
Yeah, and those are some really good reminders around consent, and sometimes consent can be really complicated and confusing, so it's really good to have somebody in your life that you can talk to consent about. In the LINK program, we call that a trusted person, so that could be a family member or a friend, but sometimes we don't always want to talk to people in our family about things that have to do around consent or sexuality. So there's a really great phone number through Options Through Sexual Health that you can phone, and it's part of our resources that are available. And you can phone and you would be able to speak to somebody that's sex positive. That means that they're non-judgmental and that they would be able to help you navigate a situation. You can phone them, you can email them. It's anonymous and it's confidential. So if you phone that number and you ask questions, it's going to remain with that person, and it's kept secret between you and that person.
That's a fantastic resource, Darren. What about also if, we talked about ways that someone can be saying yes. What are some ways that someone might be saying no?
I think for somebody somebody could verbally say no, like no. They might also say absolutely not. They could also not say anything and just maybe just sit there and not say anything. They could look like this. If somebody could look away, they could move their body away from you. They could close their arms. They could leave the room sometimes in some situations. In those situations, that means there isn't consent.
Okay, so if we come across those situations or we're unsure, treat it like a no. Go back and talk to your trusted person or call the Sex Sense line if you're unsure, and you can say, I asked someone for a hug and they kind of walked away from me. I don't know what that means, and I want some more resources on understanding consent. Can you pass me something? Right? And I'm sure that they would be happy to. And Darren and I are also here to continue having those conversations with you or anybody who wants to know a lot more about consent, because there's so much more about consent than what we just talked about.
And I think a really good reminder as well is that when somebody is consenting to something, whether it be a hug or holding hands, it doesn't mean they're consenting to everything. So, a good way to have an open conversation with somebody is asking somebody what they do like. So, sometimes people can think consent isn't very sexy, but there is a way to make it more natural. It isn't necessarily just listing, do you want to do this, this, or this? It would be simply asking the person, what would you like to do? I can see we've been dating for a while, and we've talked a little bit about taking our relationship to that next level and having open conversation. But also keeping in mind that if you have that conversation, somebody later may change their mind, and that's okay. So it doesn't mean that you have a conversation with somebody and that means they've consented forever to doing that. It just means that, you're having a conversation, and but when it becomes time that you want to advance a relationship to that next level, you can check in again with that person.
That's a really good point. So if we were to wrap things up on consent and to give anybody some words of wisdom or reminders to take home, it sounds like what you've said and what I've said, Darren, that consent is really important. All parties need to be on the same page, so they're understanding what they're consenting to. Everybody feels comfortable saying yes. Nobody is pressured. Everybody's awake. Nobody's been under the influence of drugs or alcohol. Everybody has the right to change their mind, and that we need consent every single time for every single action. So just because we got it once doesn't mean that we have consent the next time, and it doesn't mean that the person is willing to move on to step 2 or 3 because they consented to step 1. So we need to have constant check-ins, open communication, and scan the whole body to make sure our words and our body, are they matching up?
Absolutely, and I think a really good point as well would be just remembering that as we should respect other people's consent, people should respect what we're saying as well. So if we're saying no to something and somebody is pressuring us, check in with your trusted person if you are able to, because we want the respect goes both ways in a relationship.
That's right. Well, we hope you enjoyed this talk, and we look forward to teaching you a little bit more. Tune in next time. See
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Hello, I hope you enjoyed that video. And we do acknowledge these are challenging topics and not always easy to talk about. So if you have any questions or concerns, please look at the description below for the contacts to the LINK program. And please watch for our other videos in this series coming up on sexuality and disability. Bye for now.